You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Conservatives laugh at Trump kids as foreign business deal hits major snag, based on an article by Matthew Rarsa. The Trump family treats corruption like a development strategy, a deal built on theft. The report in here is straightforward. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner are tied to a resort project in Albania that would cut into a protected flamingo sanctuary. The deal has sparked protests and an anti-corruption investigation. And a new report says the businessman who sold the land may not have owned it in the first place. That is not an unfortunate wrinkle. It is the business model showing itself in daylight. Who actually has power? The power in this story sits with the people who can convert political access into private gain. Trump's children are not random investors stumbling through a foreign property dispute. They are members of the family that sat atop the US presidency and continue to trade on that status. The source text makes the conflict plain. Foreign business, controversial land, wealthy Gulf buyers, and a project attached to a political dynasty with no shame about operating in public view. That matters because the real decision makers are not the villagers defending land, not the flamingos, and not the environmental groups documenting destruction. The decisive actors are the people who can push capital, extract land, and rely on elite connections to make the whole arrangement look like development instead of plunder. Legal dispute is a cover story. The weakest part of the framing is its instinct to flatten this into a messy property disagreement. It is not merely that there are competing claims over privatization. The source describes a protected area being cleared with heavy machinery, access roads cut into the sand, fencing installed, and a state anti-corruption agency opening an investigation. That is the outline of a political and ecological smash and grab, not a neutral business negotiation done sideways. When commentary turns this into a joke about the highs and lows of Albania, it does the usual laundering work for power. The humor lands because it treats corruption as local color, as if the problem is Balkan confusion rather than the familiar global behavior of American political royalty. Show up with money, invoke legitimacy, and assume institutions will bend around the transaction. The real harm is material. The source gives enough to identify the damage without exaggeration. A protected habitat is at risk. Local and European environmental groups say the land is being irreversibly destroyed. Security forces beat a Greek citizen protesting the resort. The project has also become a drag on Albania's standing with the European Union, which it wants to join. Those are concrete consequences, not abstract concerns. This is what elite development often looks like, the promise of tourism and growth used as a moral solvent for ecological destruction, public conflict, and legal ambiguity. The people selling the project call it transformation. Everyone else is left to deal with the wreckage. Albanian institutions, Trump impunity. Albania's government, according to the source, champions the project as a boost to high tourism and a way to support EU membership. That tells you enough about the incentives at work. Officials are not being forced into this by fate. They are choosing to frame a contested luxury resort as national advancement, even while an anti-corruption agency is investigating and environmental groups are warning about irreversible harm. The Trump side of the equation is no cleaner. The family's long-running pattern is to turn public power into private credibility and then act surprised when anyone notices. That is not her misunderstanding. It is the point. The project benefits from the same political economy that lets powerful families cash in while insisting they are just ordinary market participants. The pattern is oligarchic, not accidental. This story is bigger than one resort and bigger than one country. It shows how political dynasties, weak land governments, speculative capital, and environmental sacrifice can be braided together into a single racket. The goal is not just to build a resort. The goal is to normalize the idea that people with power can acquire land, erase objections, and wrap the outcome in the language of investment. That is why this kind of reporting matters. It exposes how corruption travels. It is never just one bad deed or one mistaken sale. It is a system that rewards people with the right surname, the right contacts, and the right indifference to what gets destroyed along the way. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of Razat, thanks for listening.